Sometimes life knocks the breath right out of you. You lose what you've built, your business, your savings, your security, and wonder if there's a way back. But what if starting over could become the most powerful chapter of your story? My guest today, Ross Hartshorn, knows exactly what that feels like. At 65, he lost everything: his company, his pension, even his sense of who he was. But at 74, he did something extraordinary. He became a published author. It's a story about resilience, yes, but also about love, courage, and finding purpose when the world tells you it's too late. If you've ever felt like life has moved on without you, or wondered whether you can start again, this conversation will remind you that you absolutely can.
We've got happiness back, we've got no stress.
Because sometimes losing everything gives you the freedom to become who you were meant to be. I'm Hannah, and this is More Moments, where real stories remind us it's never too late to begin again. Welcome, Ross, to More Moments.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Well, many people will know you as a published author, and I think we can say a published international author.
Absolutely.
But we will come to that later.
Okay.
Having talked to you and having had the pleasure of getting to know you on some of our Zooms and hearing a lot about you and researching you, I think you have remarkable stories to tell our listeners. And I would like you to go back as far as you're willing and welcome to go back to. For here, this is a safe space. There's no judgment in More Moments. This is about telling remarkable stories from people from all walks of life. So I would like you to tell our listeners about your remarkable stories, because I think there's more than one. And you start where you're ready to start.
I think I'd start basically where I left teaching in 1988. I spent 18 years teaching maths at secondary school.
Wow.
And I used to raise money for the school, and at that time the national curriculum had just been put into operation, and I felt that the worse teacher you were, the higher up you went in the bracket. So I decided that wasn't for me, because I was a good teacher but I wasn't going anywhere, and I decided to set my own business up. And I met a guy who was going out with a girlfriend of mine's sister, and he was an electrical contractor. And we set up an electrical business, and we were doing quite well, and I thought the business was cracking. We actually got the boots contract at the time.
Wow. And
we were working all over the country, and I thought we were making loads of money. But unfortunately, to put it mildly, I wasn't in a partnership with the most honest of men.
Oh.
And quite a few of it backfired. But over a period of about 7 or 8 years, we were doing extremely well. But we always had cash flow problems, And we kept on going to the bank for more and more money, and it became difficult to raise money. So at that time, credit was quite easy to come by, and I was quite good at getting credit. And I ended up with a huge number of credit cards, which ran my business, really. So I had a credit limit in excess of £1 million.
Wow.
And to be honest, I lost a little bit of touch with reality, and I could do things that I didn't dream that I would be able to do.
Well, this was the 80s, right?
This is the 90s, in the 90s.
Yeah, this is when everything seemed possible.
Everything seemed possible.
Everybody had everything. It was a very opulent time, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So at that time, I ended up moving into racehorse ownership.
Wow.
And with my credit cards, people used to say to me, nice horse over there, Ross, only 20 grand, do you want it? And I'd say, yeah, I'll have that. So we basically I didn't know my partner at the time. I don't think any of it would have happened if she'd have been in control of me, but it did. And basically, in 1996, we ran into a complete impasse. We used lots of money. We were on stop everywhere. We couldn't get supplies, but we had loads of work. unbeknownst to me, the money for the work wasn't actually coming into the company, it was going elsewhere. So that's why I had to keep financing it. So in 1996, I decided that as a contractor, it would be better if we owned our own wholesaler, because then we wouldn't be put on stop, we could get whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
So I set up a company with a guy who was extremely good with wholesaling, and we became a big wholesaler, and it actually blossomed into a better business than the contracting business.
And a question, what was your role in both of those businesses?
I suppose you'd call me finance director, although I did a lot of labouring. When we were doing Boots, I was the man who cleared up all the mess in the shops. And it was actually in one of those shops at Boots at Saffron Walden where I met a guy. He was putting rubbish into the skip for his building contractor, and I was doing it for us. And he said to me, "What are you going to do in the morning when we finished here?" And I said, "I'll go home, I suppose." He said, "I'm going to see my racehorse. Do you want to come with me?" And we drove over to where he was as a syndicate owner in a racehorse in Tring for Peter Harris, who is no longer with us. And I walked away from there as a quarter share owner in a horse. And that unfortunately led to me becoming a half share owner, then a full share owner, and then a multi-horse owner. It just snowballed. And over the years, we actually finished horse racing in 2014. We had over 50 winners around the country. We won some big races.
And tell the listeners a little bit, because we have some friends who are part owners of racehorses. And of course, it's fantastic when the horse wins.
Absolutely.
But this is a very expensive business.
Yes. My partner Karen says to me that if we hadn't owned the horses, we wouldn't be living in a little terraced house. We'd actually be doing a lot better. I reckon over the years, it probably cost us £2 million to be the horse race. And where that £2 million come from, I have no idea. But it did. I think the credit cards helped a lot.
I'm sure they did. But the thing is, I suppose it's a bit like gambling, isn't it?
It is.
That you always think if you put the money in, you're going to win.
Exactly.
And you might win. And if you buy that horse is a winner. I've seen it. We've been through a lot of horse racing.
Yeah.
And of course, what people see, it's like anything. They see the people at the top who've won the millions with all the races, but they haven't seen the investment that goes in.
Absolutely. And the thing is, obviously, I was advised that as a quarter share owner, you didn't really have much say.
No.
Better to be a half share owner, but when you get a half share owner, it's better to be a half share, a full owner, because then you've got say, but then you've got to beat the trainer. So the trainer tells you what to do. So, it was a fantastic experience. And the people who ended up being our friends, that we knew were our friends, all came from horse racing.
Wow.
All came from horse racing.
And when you look back at that, would you say it was an exhilarating time? Did you love it?
Unbelievable.
Yes, I bet it was.
It was something that I know that very few people will ever have the chance to enjoy. And we had fantastic times. We had some amazing experiences. Wouldn't change it for the world, even though it cost us a lot of money. But in 1996, when we started our wholesale business, we thought we were doing very well.
Yeah.
But within 4 years, the contracting company was really struggling still with cash flow. And we decided to close it down. And in that period of time, I had put, probably a couple of £1 million into the business over the years. And I had a document with my partner, which obviously said that we were both equally liable. But we had to sort of pay all the debts to close the company down. And I managed to do that. So we closed the company down, and I had an agreement with my partner that he would pay me back over the next 10 years about £500,000. That, of course, didn't happen.
No.
That, of course, didn't happen. And then, but we carried on with we went our separate ways. For the first 2 years, the payments came. After that, they disappeared. So then the wholesale company was doing really well, and everything was going along nicely. And then in 2004, a guy came from Bournemouth to see me, and he said, I was at a lecture the other day given by an accountant who used to work for you. And he said, basically he was telling us about a guy in this lecture who ran his company with credit cards. And he said, and as a debt manager, I thought he's going to have problems. So he said, he didn't mention your name during the lecture, but I went to speak to him afterwards and he told me who you are. He said, I've come up from Bournemouth to help you.
Wow.
So he went through everything that we had, and I had I think it was about £900,000 worth of debt on the credit cards at that time. And he said, right, we need to get rid of these. And he said, it's going to be a tough ask. It's going to take 2 years and we're going to go through hell to get it there. But he said, we should come out of it the other end without a bankruptcy or without a county court judgment. So he said, the first question I ask you is, if there's one thing you want to keep out of everything that you've got, what's it going to be? And I thought very carefully. And we're good friends still. And he said he's never had anybody give an answer like this. And I said to him, Lord Theo. And he said, Lord Theo, I said, that's my best horse. And he said, most people say their car or their house.
Yes.
But you said a horse. And then I realised, and he laughed. I said, obviously, unfortunately, Lord Theo's in Karen's name. He said, well, you don't have to worry about him then.
No,
so,
exactly.
And basically, he took over, and it took a couple of years. And first of all, the first 3 or 4 months, the credit card companies were phoning up, demanding their money, tell us what they were going to do. After 5 months, it was give us half of it. And after a year, it was give us a third of it. And we ended up doing a deal in 2008. And I paid about 75 pence in the pound of debt. And we had to mortgage everything and sell everything to get that out of the way. So the house got mortgaged right up to the hilt. And we sold everything we had to pay off that bill. The company was still doing very well. It had got on to, by this time, about 2011. And then my mother was taken seriously ill. And she actually, from December 2010 to February 2011, she struggled, but then she died in 2011. And during that period of time where I sort of took my eye off the ball, the guy who I'd opened the wholesale company with had set his own company up, literally half a mile away, been going on for some time. And literally, when my mother was buried, him and his partner, who also worked for ourselves, came and told us that they were leaving. And I had no clue. And then I did some investigations, and one of my customers came in and said to me, do you realise that your guys have opened a branch down the road and they're going to take all your customers with them? And
people can be truly awful.
Yeah, literally, these are people who worked for me for 10 years. And I was virtually...
And who earned a good living doing it.
Learned a lot. Karen and I were always the last to be paid.
Of course.
So we used all our resources to keep them paid, and then that was that. So everybody said, you need to shut down. You're going to take... And at that time, I was, 65? So literally, it would have probably been a good time. But we had 2 warehouses, which were on 10-year leases. So they were very difficult to get out of. Literally, we thought, like with the gambling, you think if you put more money in, you can save it.
Yes.
So basically, we then adopted we had not big pensions, but we lent the pension money to the company to keep it afloat. So for 3 years, we struggled on and on and on. And then out of the blue, another electrical wholesaler who I had used in the past, and I knew a couple of people within, I actually just jokingly said to the guy, would you be interested in buying us? And he thought it was a good purchase. So we turned over just under £2 million at that time.
Wow, what an achievement.
Yeah, and we didn't owe any money. We didn't owe any VAT. We didn't owe any rent. But we had 60-day accounts, and obviously we spent a lot of money, so they were quite big. And in 2014, there was an Easter holiday followed by another bank holiday, and it was a month where we couldn't work. And what had happened to us when the guys had split from us in 2011 and took the customers, a lot of them stayed with us, fair play. the bank offered us to do invoice financing as a way of increasing our overdraft. So we'd just had an overdraft before. This time we went invoice financing. So we've been doing invoice financing for a couple of years. And of course, we had at that time around about 80 or 90,000 pounds available in our invoice fund, but we hadn't done any invoicing. So now, for a month, we couldn't get any invoicing out. And then it would be another month before we could get other invoicing. So we had a 2-month period where everybody wanted their money, but we didn't have any, even though we had the facility. And that's when my accountant, the new accountant there, said to me, you're getting too old, you might as well sell the business. And that's why we went and offered the chance to the other. And they came in, looked at our books and everything like that. And the company who took us over offered us £500,000 to do the deal. It wouldn't have paid us, but it would have paid all the debts that we had.
Right.
So basically, but we'd have kept our pension. Unfortunately, on the day that we were going to sign that contract, selling the company, the bank, for some reason, got wind of it and decided that they would be being stitched up. So what they did is they decided to charge us £300,000 to shut our account. By doing that, they became the biggest creditor in the company and they could take over the proceedings. They took an injunction out against our sale of the business, and they put their own receivers into the company. So
totally unnecessary action.
Totally unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary.
So basically then those receivers came into where we were trading and they were there for 3 weeks and we were like prisoners within there, just doing everything we could to keep afloat.
Yeah.
And after those 3 weeks, we were sold to the original company for £30,000 and we got nothing. And we had a VAT refund that was due, we couldn't have that. And the pension, which we thought was protected, wasn't. So everything went completely. So in 2014, we ended up with nothing. And that's what we sat in the bottom of our garden and thought, what the hell are we going to do? And
just let me ask you, for people listening, because so much of what you talk about is incredible achievement, really incredible, and huge congratulations for doing it. But it just shows you that if you tangle with the wrong people, how it can all unravel so quickly.
Very quickly.
And that emotion that you and your partner felt sitting in your garden after all of those years of putting maximum effort in and doing extremely well at times, what did that feel like? Almost
destroyed me. To be honest, I actually came into work one day and I was sitting at my desk and I thought, I think I'll drive into a wall. And I got in my car and I was driving, I'm getting quite emotional about this. I was driving down the road and I decided to phone the doctor. And the doctor come on the line to me and said, what's happening? And I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And she said, drive here immediately.
Thank goodness that doctor was on the end of that phone for you.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And you had the wherewithal to reach out as well, because many people in your position they don't have the capacity to reach out.
No.
But you did.
Yeah.
And you've got to think how strong that makes you, because you did reach out and you did pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And thank goodness someone was there to answer it.
And I actually did what she said. I drove there. They saw me immediately and she spoke to me for 2 hours.
Wow.
And 2 hours later, I came out and I had renewed vigour and I thought I can carry on here. And literally, I don't know, the sale went through and I became manager of my own company under a different name.
Wow.
There was 5 people who worked for us at the time and we worked very hard with the management of the new company and they kept those guys on. Unfortunately, 4 days later, 4 days into my new tenure as the manager of my branch of this company, a great company, very wonderful people who took it over, and literally we had a trade counter that was obscured from the office upstairs by a staircase.
Yeah.
And I was coming down the staircase and one of our big customers came through the door to the trade counter and was speaking to one of the guys who we'd kept their job. And this guy came in and said, is Ross available? And the guy said to him, as I was coming down the stairs, Ross, he's fucking nothing now, mate. He's fucking nothing. And I was coming down the stairs and it destroyed me. We'd had 3 years of nightmare from 2011 to 2014. We got through it. We had nothing, but we were working. And I'd been through that. I just didn't know what to do. And literally, I thought, I can't do this. And I phoned up the man who'd taken over the company, and his name was Alan. And I said, Alan, I have nothing, and I need this job desperately, but I need my self-respect more. I remember saying it, and I said, I can't do the job. And he said, you know what, Ross? He said, I'll keep your same salary, go down the road to the other branch and be a driver for them. And that's what I've done for the last 11 years, is be a driver for that company. And it changed our lives. So now what we decided to do in 2014 was not touch my wages ever. And then Karen got a job in Tesco's, and we were lucky that I got my old age pension, because at that time, 65, and we decided that we would mobilise everything we had to pay off the mortgage that we did. It took us 4 years to pay off the mortgage. And so now our house is ours, and we have saved all that money, and now we are in charge of our own money. And we've been to Canada, we're going to China, Japan. We're doing the things that we want to do, and we've done it through hard work, graft. And it's only 2 months since I packed in work. And I wasn't keen on doing it because I said to Karen, it means me not having an income coming in. So all I got is my £12,500. That's all I earn now. But we've got happiness back. We got no stress, and that's the way the story goes.
And so let's just go back a little bit, because I think people listening, there will be many people who really, your story resonates hugely. And we live in a very challenging world where I think it's increasingly hard to make any money because there's so many ways in which it's taken away from us.
Absolutely.
And if we roll back a little bit to that moment you were coming down the stairs, and you are now, I really feel the position you're in, because both my husband and I have had to give up our pensions. We've lost almost everything. And that's another story, but we can really empathise with that emotion, and other people will do it too. But that conversation you overheard as you came down those stairs, at the time you weren't able to rationalise that because of the emotional position you were in. You surely know now that that person saying that was his emotion, not yours. It was envy, it was greed, it was narcissism, and you should never have heard that.
No.
But the fact that you did, because there's no doubt from what you tell that most people didn't feel like that at all about you.
No.
But that one person, their issue, not your issue. What those nasty, spiteful words he said, all about him, not about you. But if you then look back at what that's done, that trigger, hearing those words, you've turned it into something so positive that you have to let that go. That
absolutely. The other interesting thing is the 5 people that I'd kept on, the new company within 6 months had sacked a lot of them for stealing. So how much had they stolen from me over the previous 10 years? But as I say, I've moved on from it now.
Yeah.
We're plushies now.
Yes.
We look back at it as the best thing that ever happened to us, because instead of looking after other people all the time, and that's what we did,
Yes.
basically, and we kept on believing in the company, we now look after ourselves, basically, and it makes you feel quite pleased about that.
Yeah, well, I think what you and Karen have achieved is it's a remarkable story, because together because that could have broken you apart.
Yeah, very
If
nearly.
you look for relationships, finance pressures, stress, anxiety, because we also know that those emotions, they don't leave you. they swirl around, and wherever you go and wherever you are, you talk about them. Whatever you do, it's part of your life. And if you're not careful, that's the only thing you talk about. But you were strong enough to able to push past that. And that will be a huge inspiration to people watching this, there are many people out there struggling financially with we understand what that emotion of stress feels like, and that everywhere you turn, everything costs you money. All the time you're outlaying, but you're not necessarily bringing it in. We understand it, and your story will really, really help other people, because not only have you built yourself a really amazing nest egg, you're now beginning to live life free. You're free.
Absolutely.
You're free. You're actually the only people you're responsible to are yourselves.
Absolutely. And it changed me into a writer.
And it's changed you into a writer, where we'll go next. So these remarkable stories that took you to where you are today. And at the point you started writing, how old were you?
74.
Wow. That's amazing. And so what made you think, do you know what? I'm going to put pen to paper.
In 2020, we reset our lives. We were both working. We decided to go on a cruise to see the Northern Lights, which we didn't see, obviously. No. You never see the Northern Lights. But we did do some snowmobiling, and we went up to the top of the world. On the ship, there was a lady called Susan Cohen, and she owned a company called the We Book Company in Scotland, and she was doing lectures on how to become a writer. I'd been to a couple of seminars 5 or 6 years before this about writing and didn't work, but I was just happened to go and have a chat with Susan.
But it was already in your mind then?
It was yeah, I sort of wondered about writing.
Okay.
And I went and saw Susan, and I said, I've got some pretty good stories to tell. And she said, well, tell me one of them. And I told her the story about the credit cards, where I became a world record holder for the number of credit cards. And she said, that sounds really good. And as we continued the conversation, she said, I think you should consider possibly writing your autobiography. And I said, well, how will I go about that? I said, I've not read a book for 60 years, let alone written anything. And she said, well, what you need to do is every time you go home from work, do an hour's writing, just do a page, put down something that you've done and see what you think. And she said, and if you put together 30 or 40 pages, speak to me, send it to me, and I'll see if I can get someone to possibly write your story, because it sounds as though you've done a lot. So I thought that was quite good. So we got off the ship in 2020, and as we got off the ship, so the COVID situation was announced.
But at least you got off the ship.
We got off the ship, yeah. The COVID situation was announced. And when I went into work the following week, I was told that because I was over 70, I had to be furloughed. They didn't want to lose me, but luckily they were staying open as a important business, wholesaling, but they could only have a skeleton staff. So over 70, you're furloughed. So I went home. Karen was still working at Tesco's, and she had to work through the COVID. And I thought, what am I going to do? It was a beautiful summer, beautiful summer. Was. So I was in the garden, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to write my autobiography. And I thought, how am I going to do it? And I split my life. I'm lucky I've got a memory. Karen will make you laugh, or will make Karen laugh. I've got a photographic memory, I say, and that's in the book, and it got me into trouble quite a bit. But I split my life into 5-year segments from the age of 0, so 0 to 5, 5 to 10. And then in each of those segments, I wrote down things that I remembered doing at that time. So then I had like 15 sections of 5 with things that I'd done. And then I would write the things that had happened to me in that 5-year period.
Very clever.
And 5 weeks later, I'd long-handedly written the book, and it was about 400 plus pages.
And this is all handwriting?
All longhand. And then
what an achievement.
I thought, I quite think that's quite good. And I thought, but how am I going to type it? And Karen said, if you think I'm going to type that, you've got another thing coming.
I'm with her, yeah.
So I was still in touch with work, and they said that it looked as though they would be needing me back within a month or so. They wanted to take me back. They needed me as a driver. I was so good. I was so good. So I said to our tech bloke at work, how am I going to get this longhand onto my computer? And he said, read it onto your phone and email it to the computer. And it took me 3 weeks to read the book onto the phone. And then I emailed it to the computer. And the amount of swear words that came out, you wouldn't believe. And of course, it had no punctuation.
No.
So then but that gave me the opportunity to edit it.
Yes.
And put all the punctuation back in. So that from sitting down for the first page to finishing editing it took me 11 weeks.
Wow.
So it took me 11 weeks. And then I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to phone up Susan and say, what am I going to do? So I phoned up Susan Cohen and she said to me, sounds brilliant, she said, but unfortunately, I'm the Wee Book Company and it tells you the kind of books that I do. I do niche Scottish books. She said, but I'm going to tell you about a lady that I know who's a friend of mine and I'm sure she'll help you. And she said to me, phone her up and see what she'll say. So I phoned up this lady called Mary Turner Thompson, one of the most amazing things that's happened to me ever. Famous best-selling author of The Bigamist, wonderful
and
person.
A friend of ours.
And yeah, unbelievable.
And in fact, it is through Mary that we've become connected.
Absolutely.
So huge accolades to her because she's an amazing individual.
And the incredible thing was that I said to Mary, I've got this book. And she said, normally I would teach people to write. So she said, send it to me and I'll tell you what I can do to help you as a new writer, to help you progress, and then we can see what goes from there. And 2 weeks later, she phoned me up and without a word of a lie, she said to me, change your plan, Ross. She said, I've read your book. It's fantastic. I'm going to become your editor and get it published. And so Mary took my book and edited it. It was good when it started. It was brilliant when she finished. And it was published and it got a good reception. And then from there, she encouraged me to write the children's books. And it's just snowballed. So in the end, I've now written 8 books. My own biography, the biography of a fantastic racehorse called Kumikawa, who's still alive at 27, lives with a dog. He was the inspiration for the children's book, and I wrote his story as well. And all of a sudden, I become a writer.
It's an incredible story because I think you'll know as an author, a writer and an author, a published author, that when you tell people you've written books, nearly everyone, in my experience, said, oh yeah, I'd quite like to do that. I'd like to write a book, or how do you do it? And I think the biggest thing to say is it takes an awful lot of hard work.
Absolutely.
So you might be here 8, 9 books in, but that it's easy to say that number, but behind that is hours and hours and hours of writing, editing, proofreading, formatting, and publishing.
Absolutely.
So your achievement, I mean, talk about a life of continuing remarkable stories. And when you wrote your autobiography and you published it, were you happy with everything you put in it? Because I'm writing my own autobiography, and where I sit is there are some things I know I can never put in that book because for all sorts of reasons. And there are some things I'm damn well going to put in that book. Absolutely. Because people need to know it. Yeah. How did you feel when you were writing your
When I wrote my book, I didn't realise that it was going to be published.
Right.
And I wrote everything, absolutely honestly, everything that had happened to me, word for word. And when it went to Mary, she said to me, there are certain things in here that you shouldn't be putting into the book.
Good for Mary.
Absolutely. And she said, we will edit those out. So although I wrote it all down, 2 or 3 things that happened to me wouldn't be any good for me personally, so they were edited out. The other thing that she was very keen to mention was that any names in the book you would need to change. So you would need to camouflage the names of the people. The bonus is that anybody who knows you knows exactly who those people are.
Of course they do.
So they have the effect. When you're writing it, I wanted to expose what had happened to me.
Quite right.
That was one of my motivations.
Yes.
I wanted people to know.
Justice.
Yeah, absolutely. It was and I knew that even though I might have changed their names, everybody who knew me from the word go would know exactly who they were, and what they did to me would become general knowledge.
And also they would know.
They would know
They would know.
as
And
worth.
actually you can find peace then, can't you?
Absolutely.
And you can move on it. I think it's really a cathartic process.
Absolutely. I can tell you, with the Kumakawa autobiography, that was incredible. I collaborated with a lady called Helen McCarthy, who I gave Kumakawa to. He was a racehorse for me. In 2000, I bought him in 2000. He won 8 races.
Wow.
2007, didn't want to run anymore. Found him a wonderful home in Wales, where he still is at the age of 27. Gave him to Helen McCarthy. And the amazing thing was while we had him, we kept a photographic record of everything that he did, and as a racehorse. And Helen trained him as a show jumper, dressage horse, and she kept all the pictures of his life. So the book, Kumakawa, has got everything about this horse, and he's telling his story through his own in-horse language. Everybody says he sounds a lot like me, but the thing was that obviously during the period of from 2008 to the present day, I relied on stuff that Helen told me that happened to her and with him all the way through. So she used to send me 2 years of his stuff, and I would put it into words, and then we went right the way through. And everything that she sent to me, I actually sent back to her when I'd finished it, and she okayed it. And she had quite a few things happen to her, private things happen to her, that she knew was going to be in the book. But when it was published, when Mary published it, and it actually came out in the hardcover, and it went to Helen, for the first time she read it in print, and she could not cope with it. She said, I can't remember telling you those things, and they're all in the book, and my friends don't know they happened to me. And she said, we're going to have to take it out of publication. And that was 3 days into and so 3 days in, Mary stopped it being sold.
I mean, this is for people listening. That's a massive blow.
Massive blow, yeah.
Because the what it takes you to get to the point that, and we self-publish. So understanding the process of that, because what you do is you upload the manuscript, you press send, upload, done, sell. In order to change that, you've got to stop it being available, take the manuscript out and edit it. Absolutely. And then reload it.
Absolutely.
Not good for book sales.
Absolutely hopeless. So, but a week later, Helen got back in touch with me and said, all the things that I didn't want my friends to know, they all bought the book on the first day that it was published. And they all now know. And they have been so amazingly supportive.
Wow.
That it's proved to be the most cathartic exercise of my life. Get it back out there, and it's back out there.
Oh, fantastic.
So
you see how things come around.
It is very strange. It is very strange.
It
and
really is.
I mean, there's no one as wonderful as Helen McCarthy. The way that she looks after that horse is just incredible. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to give you the support that he's had.
The life.
And that's why he's such an inspiration, and that's why the children's books, I love them because he's real. The little dog that he's with is real, and everybody in the children's book is real, all the children. And the children's books are a joy. I really love.
Well, and they're really well received. They're beautiful books, and we will make sure that the links to those books go up at the end of this podcast. But talk to me about how you went from autobiography, which is a big deal. It's taking your life and laying it down and putting it out there for people to read. And then, am I right, you wrote a second book?
I wrote a second book called All Square.
Yes.
Which was a little novella. Mary phoned me up and said, look, there's a competition going on. You've got 3 weeks to write a little book. Can you do it? And I did. And it was about COVID in the square that we live. There is 12 houses in our square, and we're very sociable. We have like Christmas gatherings. We celebrate VE Day. We celebrate, and we just have a party in the square. We play music, we play games.
Right.
At Christmas we sing carols. It's quite good, and we light up the square. That's the main thing, is we light up the square. And literally I thought I'd write that because during 2020, after 15 years of the same neighbours in those houses, everybody knowing each other, we had 3 deaths and 3 houses changed hands. And the book was about how we, as a little community who couldn't see each other because we were all stuck in our houses, how we coped with that. And we coped with it by decorating the square, and then at that Christmas having a great thing. And that book is about that. It didn't win the prize, but we loved writing it, and all the neighbours loved it. They all loved being in the book.
I'm sure they did. And also it shows people in today's world that we live in that if you listen to the news, if you get going down the lens of some spiraling down rabbit holes of social media, it would make you believe that society's gone, that community's gone. It's not true.
No.
It's alive and powerful, and you've proved it in your small community there.
Yeah, we had a summer gathering last month.
Excellent.
We put up a couple of gazebos, and we just have a gathering. We have a glass of wine. Everybody brings their own food, and we just chat. And we're planning our Christmas festivities, which our carols is on November the 30th. We all come out in our hats and coats. We have mulled wine. We sing carols and we enjoy the lights. And that's November the 30th.
We'll have an amazing time. And I think people should take hope. There's communities still alive. Whatever they try and tell us, our communities are still alive.
Absolutely.
And we all feel, I know, powerfully strong about our British values and how no one can take those away from us. They might tell us it's all being disappearing, but it's not. It's alive and kicking, and you're testament to that. So what made you, I know the amazing racehorse who had a second life, but what made you think, oh, I'm going to write children's books? Because it is a completely different genre.
It was Mary again. Mary said, I've got a funny feeling that you could be a good children's author. And I said, well, what am I going to write about? And she said, well, I'm sure you'll think of something, but I think you should have a go at doing a children's book. So I thought, well, I've got no children of my own. Karen's got two boys come in their mid-40s. But I was a teacher and I taught thousands of them.
Yes.
So basically I thought, inspiration, well, I've obviously got a lot to do with horses. Who was the most troublesome horse that I ever had? And it was Kumakawa. He got me in a lot of trouble.
Did he?
In the racehorse fraternity. But we loved him to bits and we still go and see him every year. And I thought he could be the answer. And at that very moment, Karen's grandson, Max, had started doing karate. He's almost a black belt now. He's 11. He's incredible.
Wow.
He started doing karate and he came in his suit. And I thought, Kumakawa, Japanese name, karate, Japanese.
Here's a link.
There's a link there. Perhaps I can get them to do karate. And I thought, I wonder if Max taught Kuma and Daisy karate, if that would work. And that's how I got the idea. So I wrote the book. And to be honest, it took me a weekend to write that book. And then I thought, hang on a minute, illustrator, need an illustrator. What are we going to do? So Karen, my dog's body, phoned up loads of agencies, and you wouldn't believe the price to have 15 drawings, which is about standard for a children's book. You're talking in excess of £15,000.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised because we've been
and
there.
I thought, well, that's the end of that then. My best mate is named John Williams. He's a plumber. He's the same age as me, and his wife doesn't want him at home either, so he's always out working. And he knew that I was looking for an illustrator, and he was working in a little village called Elsenham, and he was working in a vicarage. And on the wall of this vicarage was a painting of an Alsatian that a local girl had done, and he thought it was really good. And he found out who she was. Her name was Charlie Harding, and he sent me her name and address, and she was working in a flower shop in Elsenham. And I went to see her, and I said, would you read my book and see if you could illustrate it? And she said, this is a dream come true for me.
I'm sure.
And I said, do you want to share the royalties, or do you want me to pay you for doing the drawings? And she said, well, I know it's hard to sell books, so I'll take the payment.
Yeah.
And
Clever
so
girl.
she did it at a really, really competitive price. And now she's illustrated 5 of the books. But again, when we did Karen managed to get her store in Tesco's to do us a book signing
well
outside.
Well done, Karen.
And we did incredibly well that day. And obviously I had to find out about Charlie. And with me, I put down van driver, but when you look in my background, I did a degree in classics, and there's lots about me you don't know.
Right.
And when you look at Charlie, you think flower shop worker. She did a fine art degree. She had done stuff for Sotheby's. She had done stage design. She was an incredible artist who had just stopped doing it. And now she's back and she's doing exhibitions of herself, and it's just incredible.
Serendipity, how things happen, how that sort of figure of eight of life comes together.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so many people are not doing the thing that they really want to do because life
true.
doesn't open the door for them. And you did. You opened the door for her. I'm sure she never in a million years thought she'd get the opportunity to illustrate. And you gave it to her. And those books are beautifully illustrated.
They are incredible.
And we should have had some here today on the table, but we'll make sure that we can show them all, and links to buy them. They're all on Amazon, correct?
All on Amazon, yeah.
As well as other platforms, but Amazon is the one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
And so as you look back now at your life, and you and Karen have built a really wonderful life together, you should feel very proud of everything you've achieved, because you've had a lot of things thrown at you, both. And here you are, successful, happy, contented. And isn't that what most people want?
That's it, yeah. You want happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness is what we're all trying to strive for.
Yeah.
But also financial freedom, which you've managed to build for yourself, which so many people haven't. And that's why I think people listening will really take a huge amount of strength from your story, that through all that aridity and disenchantment and hard work, you've come out the other side.
Yeah, that's what I would like to impress on people, that no matter how bad it gets, and it can get very bad, somehow you've got to just keep your hand on reality. I went very close to losing that, but because I went that low, coming back is so it's rewarding, and we love what we do, and we like to bring joy to people, and that's our raison d'etre, as it were.
And so for you, what would you tell our listeners is your biggest life lesson? Something that, because people from all walks of life listen to this and will watch it, and people around the world also listen and watch it. And there will be young people listening, there will be older people listening. So what's the biggest life lesson, because you've lived a very full life, that you could impart, the thing that will help those people listening the most?
I think, as I put it, I think at the end of my book, that friends are very difficult to come by. And for all the troubles that we went through, the biggest reward was we knew exactly who our friends were. And probably there was 4 or 5 of them. And I think that if you can establish those friendships and work out the ones that really count, they're the ones to work on, because so many people are fair weather friends. Not many people stick with you when the times get tough, and they're really worth nurturing, and they're very worth preserving. So I think that's the biggest lesson that we've learned. Like someone like John Williams stuck through me thick and thin. Basically, I've been a season ticket holder at Spurs for 60 years.
Oh, it's a shame.
I know. Worst team I've ever seen last year, and we won a trophy. Incredible. When in 2014 we lost everything, and I knew that I would be finished going to Spurs.
Yeah.
John brought my season ticket for me that year and told me not to worry about it, and just incredible.
Those are the things that cement relationships, aren't they?
Unbelievable.
Because actually it wasn't really about the money. It was about the warmth and the friendship, and him saying to you, it's all right, I've got you.
Absolutely.
We're here for you. We're not going to let you crumble. Someone said to me in the very darkest of our times, when of all those fair weather people who wanted to be part of our story, as soon as it turned away from the positive, it's amazing how they all disappear.
It is.
And somebody said to me in those super, super dark times, you actually only need 3 friends. And if you can hang on to those 3 friends, the question is, could you call them all at 3 o'clock in the morning, and would they pick up? And would they do the thing you need them to do? If you can say yes to that, that's all you need.
Yeah. And I know that with the 5 people that are behind us.
Yeah, good for you.
All in the book.
All in the book. And people need to read these books.
They do.
And As you know, I've written a book and it's on the shelf behind us, and we will make sure that we give links to your books because they're beautiful books, really stunning children's books. But I also think your autobiography and what you call your novella are really worth a read. So congratulations on being a published international author.
Thank you so much.
That's quite an achievement.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for coming to be our guest today. We really have honestly loved. I've loved talking to you about your remarkable stories, and I know that people listening to this will really be encouraged. You'll give them hope. And today, in today's world, when all we see is negative, and it really is a very negative world that we live in, you're going to cut through that and give people hope and give people a real inspiration for what they can do with their own lives. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Been wonderful.
Thank you for being here, for pressing play, and for sharing this space with me today. I created more moments to remind us that amidst all the noise, there is still room for real stories, honest reflections, and conversations that matter. If today sparked something in you, a thought, a question, or just a pause, I hope you carry that with you. And remember, your story isn't finished yet.